Among the many engineering marvels created by Nazi Germany during the Second World War, few weapons matched the sheer scale and spectacle of the Karl-Gerät or Karl device. It was a self-propelled heavy siege mortar designed to obliterate fortified positions with high-angle firepower. Weighing over 120 tons and firing shells that tipped the scales at over 2 metric tons, this massive 60 centimeter caliber weapon could not simply be driven across Germany or the occupied territories on a whim. To move it across long distances, a unique and carefully planned railway transportation method had to be devised and executed with precision. The Karl-Gerät, named after General Karl Becker, a German engineer and artillery general, was a behemoth of battlefield artillery. Only 7 were ever built, and each required an enormous logistical footprint to operate. Mounted on a tracked chassis, the weapon could move under its own power for short distances at crawling speeds. Its intended targets were static and hardened: bunkers, fortresses, and entrenched enemy positions. However, to reach these targets, the Karl-Gerät needed rail transport. To move the weapon long distances, the Germans employed a custom-designed variant of the Schnabelwagen or Schnabel car, a special type of rail car used for transporting oversized loads. Unlike a standard flat car, the Schnabel concept involves suspending the payload between 2 multi-wheeled bogies on pedestal-mounted arms. In the case of the Karl-Gerät, this meant mounting the entire tracked chassis between 2 enormous support arms, each attached to a 5-axle bogie. This configuration allowed the massive mortar to be transported without exceeding the axle load limits of German railway lines. War isn't won by numbers, it's won by tactics. Uncover the battlefield secrets of the German army in my new book series. Links in the description. To prepare the Karl-Gerät for rail transport, its road wheels were raised by rotating the torsion bar sprung suspension arms. This lifted the track links of the rails, preventing damage during the travel. With the tracks clear of the railbed, the chassis hung freely between the Schnabel car's supports. The entire assembly was an intimidating sight, a self-propelled siege mortar dangling like a battleship gun between 2 rolling giants. Upon arrival near the designated firing area, the Karl-Gerät was carefully lowered to the ground. This was achieved by reversing the rail transport procedure. The torsion bars were rotated to lower the chassis, allowing the tracks to touch down. The weight of the chassis then settled onto the earth, distributing the immense recoil forces that would be unleashed once the mortar opened fire. However, the Karl-Gerät could not be deployed just anywhere. The approach route had to be prepared in advance. Soft spots reinforced, ditches filled, and the ground leveled. the mortar had to be backed into firing position. This allowed for quicker withdrawal after firing, but it also meant the area had to be scouted and engineered ahead of time. Turning on soft soil was out of question. It risked throwing a track which could delay operations for hours, if not days. Despite its size, the Karl-Gerät had no trouble crossing firm ground. But it was not a battlefield improvisation tool. It was a carefully choreographed siege engine. The Karl-Gerät could only be loaded at 0 elevation. After each round was fired, the massive barrel had to be lowered, the shell inserted, and the weapon re-aimed entirely. This made rapid fire impossible and further reinforced the need for well-prepared firing position. The recoil was absorbed through the heavy chassis resting directly on the ground. Another reason why the vehicle had to be lowered from its elevated rail transport mode. The entire process, from transport to deployment and firing, required extensive coordination between rail engineers, combat engineers, and the artillery unit itself. But when it worked, the result was devastating. The Karl-Gerät was never meant to be a fast, flexible battlefield weapon. It was a tool of destruction built for specific missions, demolishing enemy fortresses and breaking defensive lines through raw, consecutive power. 6 Karl-Gerät saw combat between 1941 and 1945. They were used in attacking the Soviet fortresses of Sevastopol. They bombarded Polish resistance fighters in the Warsaw Uprising, participated in the Battle of the Bulge, and even tried to destroy the Ludendorff Bridge during the Battle of Remagen. Its rail transport system, a masterpiece of heavy logistics, allowed the German army to project this colossal weapon where it was needed. More than a weapon, the Karl-Gerät was a logistical operation on tracks. A reminder that in warfare, firepower is only as effective as the infrastructure that supports it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want to support my channel, check out the PayPal donation link in the description or consider becoming a member. To make sure you don't miss my future work, subscribe to my channel please and press the bell notification button. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.